Hey guys, this is me, Dax Moy from Fit System Training. Just here with a short video, just a brief overview explanation to answer the question that a lot of trainers and therapists and body workers have been asking about BodyMAP, what it is, how it works, how it differs from my old program, the KCA, and all of that kind of nonsense, right? So I just wanted to kind of run through it very briefly. I'm not going to get into any of the more technical aspects of any of it at the moment, but just want to kind of give you a bit of an overview. So BodyMAP, what is it? Well, essentially it's a journey into what's known as neuroception. Okay, the concept of neuroception is really this. It's the combined sensory answer, it's the brain's combined sensory answer to the question, is this safe? Okay, so essentially your brain is using the sensory system to examine its environment at all times to say, is this safe, is this safe, is this safe? And safety can quite simply be defined as a very simple concept of prediction of the future, as in, do I know for a fact that this floor isn't going to give way underneath me and the ceiling's not going to cave in over top of me? Well, I have a fairly good idea that I can predict my future that those two things aren't happening. Now, if I was sitting here shooting this same video and there was plaster coming out the ceiling and the floor felt all kind of, you know, creaky and wonky, the likelihood of me wanting to be able to sit here and produce a video for YouTube and to talk to you is probably going to go down, right? So as my risk goes up, my ability to use the cognitive part of my brain to kind of do all of the self-development kind of work that I'm doing, like I'm doing right now, that goes down. And all of my attention goes toward threat, to dealing with a threat, okay? So neuroception is this combined sensory answer to the question, is this safe? And how do we go about finding out if something's safe? Well, we use our sensory system. We use the respiratory system, which traditionally isn't counted as a sensory system, although it is, okay? And obviously it's sensing oxygen levels and acid-alkaline balance and, you know, very, very simple. I mean, we go into obviously in a lot more depth during the program, but it's simply monitoring to make sure that you are able to carry out your functions correctly. Obviously, in the absence of oxygen or thoroughly oxygenated bloodstream, so many of the biological processes of the body change. Okay, so respiratory system is the first one at the top of the threat hierarchy that we look at. Where do we move to next? We move to the visual field. Obviously, so much of our ability to decide if something is a threat to us or not comes from the visual field. Okay, so if we have a full and thorough usage of our eyes, we're able to assess our environment, say yes, it's safe, or no, it's not. As we become more short-sighted, for example, or anything that affects our vision, starts to increase the brain's perception of threat. You can imagine it going, okay, I can see a lot, I can see a lot, I can see a lot. Now my field is narrowing down, I can see less, I can see less, I can see less. Every piece of vision that gets taken away from your brain is an increase in what's known as the threat matrix, okay? So we assess the visual field to actually make sure that the brain is getting the maximum visual picture, the maximum visual safety it can amass. Next system we look at is the vestibular system. The vestibular system is that part of your brain which is to do with balance. Okay. In other words, can I maneuver my way around the planet on my own 2 feet without falling over? Because falling over is a massive threat to the human organism. We fall over, we can break bones, and we can fracture our skulls, and we can do all kinds of nasty damage to ourselves, which can leave us vulnerable and at higher risk. Okay. So we run through a whole bunch of series of assessments for the vestibular system. What else do we do? Next, we look at the proprioceptive system. Okay, proprioceptive system is your body's system that's designed to kind of know where it is relative to itself. Okay, that's incorrect. Actually, let's come back one. Let's look at the spatial system, which is number 4. Okay, we look at spatial threat, your ability to know where you are relative to your environment, and that also includes the speed that your environment is moving around you. So, for example, balls and bats and you know, cars and all kinds of things like that in modern society, right? The ability to be able to judge our distance between things, the ability to be able to judge the speed that something is moving. This all falls into our spatial awareness. And again, any disruption to our ability to read the space around us increases our threat picture. Then we move to proprioception. Proprioception, our ability to judge where we are relative to ourselves, and also to be able to feel that and sense that. Okay, the distance between my nose and my finger, for example, right, and the fact that I can close my eyes and find it. Well, that's partly a skill of proprioception. And again, what we find is that as proprioceptive picture goes down, the threat goes up. And finally, we can include mechanical threat. Okay, so mechanical threat, we'll start to look at changes in the tissues themselves. For example, the myofascia, the kind of tissue tightness, and all this kind of stuff. Now, what's interesting is that the old KCA program used to start somewhere around here, the old proprioceptive and mechanical threat, and that was the area that we dealt with the most. Okay? What you'll find now is that they are toward the bottom of the hierarchy. What we find is that actually what the body does at times when threat goes up, it deals with that threat by either giving you pain, in other words, pay attention to this, okay? So it gives you pain to either make you pay attention or to make you stop doing something that is likely to increase the threat. One of the other ways in which it does this is it gives you weakness, it gives you range restriction. So essentially, because the environment is moving too fast for you to read, because it's moving too fast for you to predict, it slows you down in your environment. You have less range, less speed, less power, which means that you move through your environment much more consciously, which means that the downgrading of each one of these systems creates less of a threat. Now, obviously, we're not supposed to live like that continuously. What's supposed to happen is we're supposed to address the threat. As we address the threat, we'll get our pain, we'll get our speed back and our strength back and our mobility back, okay? But for many people, that's not what happens, and instead, we spend all our time down at this end dealing with mechanical threats like stretching and tissue twisting and kind of cracking and popping and all that kind of stuff. We then try and increase proprioception, but we never take care of these other threats, which is why the pain keeps coming back, the restriction keeps coming back, and the downgrading of our physical skills, those physical attributes. They never really take care of themselves permanently. So what BodyMAP does is it builds all of this into a hierarchy, helps the brain answer the question, is this safe? And ultimately by saying to the brain, yes, it is. You've got more of a visual field. You've got more. Your respiration's working. Your visual field is working better. Your vestibular system is working better. You have better spatial awareness. Your proprioception has gone up. And then only when necessary do we approach the mechanical side of the body and start to click, crack, pop, stretch, and all that other kind of cool stuff that most personal trainers love doing. Okay, so that's the general concept of BodyMAP. In another video, I'll take you into it a little bit further. But I know a lot of people have been asking about it, and hopefully that gives you some idea about just how different it is. There are no other systems out there at the moment assessing from a sensory perspective. Nearly all the systems out there are to do with assessing from a mechanical perspective. This is short, that's long, that's tight, that's weak, all that kind of stuff. BodyMAP does it from a very different perspective, and that's why the results are so immediate. So I hope you found this useful. If you've got any other questions about BodyMAP, please fire them away below. And if not, I will speak to you in the next video. Take care.